Well, hello geometry students. Happy Friday. We are going to finish up part 2 of the elimination notes that you started yesterday. If you were gone yesterday, you should stop this video, go find elimination part 1. It says part 1 in giant letters, so find that. Then you can watch this one, because obviously if you don't have the first part of the notes, you're going to be a little confused. If you were here, however, and you finished the lesson, congratulations, you are now moving on to part 2. Now remember, elimination means to get rid of, to cancel, to, I don't have another word, destroy. Yes, we're going to destroy or get rid of one of the variables. Now on all the ones from yesterday, it was already pretty close or already nicely set up for us. Remember, our thing we said was you're looking for opposite coefficients. And I need to clarify that by saying it needs to be the same number. So I can't have -2 and +5. Yes, they are opposites, but they're not the same number. I need -2 and +2. So the ones we do today are gonna be a little bit more work because they are not ready-made for us. They don't look all nice and pretty and ready to go. All right, so looking at number 5, looking at the x's, 7 and 14, not the same number. The y's have 2 and 10, not the same number. All right, well, that's unfortunate, but I have to do a little bit of work. So let's check out the x's. Well, one's -7 and one's 14, so they are opposite signs. Cool, I don't have to multiply anything by negatives. How do I make it so that it is 14 and -14? Because if I can do that, then they'll cancel out. Well, 14's fine, but -7, I'm going to need to multiply that by +2. If I do that, then I'll get my -14 and then everything will be hunky-dory. However, if I multiply it to that x part, then I have to do it to the whole group. So kind of like what we talked about yesterday with that -1, only this time it's a number bigger than 1. And again, everything is going to get affected. Again, I'm doing this so that I can get 14 and -14x because they will cancel each other or eliminate each other. So I'm going to write my new answers down here. 2 times -7x is -14x. 2 times +2y is +4y. Woohoo! And -17 times +2 is -34. Yes, it is. I did the math in my head. All right, now let's do our combining. These guys eliminate. Woohoo! Got rid of the x's. Now I'm -10y plus 4y. That's -6y. 22 minus 34. A little mental math here. I believe that is 12. -12. Yes. My mental math's a little rusty right now. Divide by -6. Easy algebra. Boom, y equals 2. Half of our problem is done. Yay! Now don't congratulate yourself too quickly because you still need to solve for x. Now go back to your original 2 equations and pick which one you would like. I'm going to use the second one only because I don't like having negatives with the variable I'm trying to solve for. You can pick the first one. You're going to get the same exact answer we do. Really, it's just personal preference. So 14x minus 10 times 2 equals 22. So 14x minus 20 equals 22. Add 20 to both sides. That's the problem with elimination. You have to do a little bit of extra work to solve for the second variable. Just slightly annoying, but not impossible. That out of the way. That equals 3. Excellent. All right, and remember what I said in the previous lessons? To write it correctly, you should write it as x comma y. So 3 comma 2. That is where our 2 lines would cross if this was graphed for us. All right, feel free to pause there. Write that down, make sure you get it copied. And then we're moving along to number 6. But before we do, here's a happy penguin to make your day, because penguins are my favorite animal, and so I found a cute little happy penguin. Don't worry, be happy, you can do this lesson. Don't give up. If you're having trouble, raise your hand, ask for help. And if you are doing this through Edpuzzle, take a second and off to the side, tell me what your favorite animal is, because I would love to know. And then we'll move along to the next example. Happy Friday. Alright, so now that you've told me what your favorite animal is, props to you if it's a penguin, because that's the best. For number 6, we're going to do the same exact thing. We got to figure out what do we need to do to make these the same. And quick side note, penguin. Alright, back to this one really, really quick. Some of you might have looked at this part and said, well, why don't I just multiply it by 5? Then I would get positive 10 and negative 10. Perfect. If you thought that, kudos to you because you thought correctly. That would work just as well. I just picked the first one because that's what I looked at first. Alright, so just so you know, you can use this process with either X or Y, it doesn't matter. So looking at this one, do any of our variables have the same number? Well, 12 and negative 6 aren't the same, and 10 and negative 6 aren't the same. Dang it, that means it's not ready to go for us, so we're going to have to do some extra work. So now, let's look at the X's. Alright, well, 12 and negative 6, can I get negative 6 to equal 12? Yes, I can. So off to the side now, if you're doing the Edpuzzle lesson, please type in what number I should multiply this whole second equation by in order to get this part to equal negative 12. What number should I multiply everything by? Okay, hopefully you said positive 2. 2 times negative 6 will get me negative 12. And if I do it to 1, I got to do it to everything. Okay, so I'm just going to rewrite everything over here. I'm going to rewrite the first one the same way it is, because I'm not changing that one. But I am going to change the second one. It's going to be negative 12x. 2 times negative 6 is negative 12y. 0 times 2 is still 0. Do not make it 2. It's 0. All right, pause here, please. Try this on your own. See if you can solve it by yourself. I actually just gave you the first step, so you should be able to complete it yourself. When you're ready, hit play and copy what I've done. Okay, but please try it out yourself first to give yourself a little bit of a learning opportunity. See how well you know it. If you get it wrong, hopefully use pencil, then you can erase. Those two are going to go away. 10 minus 12 becomes negative 2y. Negative 12 plus 0 is still negative 12. Super easy algebra equation. Divide by negative 2, and y equals 6. Huzzah! I got the first answer. Not quite done yet. Still got to solve for x, so let's go back to our originals. Well, I think I'm going to pick the first one because I don't really like dealing with negatives. Kind of annoying. So I'm going to deal with the first one. Actually, I'll use the second one. Let's go with the second one. I'm going to use this guy right here. Negative 6x minus 6y, which is now 6, equals 0. If you want to use the first one, go for it. Doesn't really matter. That equals 36. Okay, now I'm glad I actually picked this one, because this one does seem slightly easier. I just hate when you have to use negatives so often. Just a pain. Alright, and hopefully you were able to find this out all on your own, because you are fantastically awesome mathematicians. But if not, that is what you should have gotten. Remember to write it out as a coordinate, negative 6, comma, positive 6. A little cloud around it for the final answer. And if you really wanted to check and make sure you did it right, plug negative 6 and positive 6 in for x and y in your original. If it comes out to what it's supposed to, you did it correctly. Okay, I'm not going to go through that right now for time's sake. I know it's the right answer, but feel free to go back. Negative 6 times negative 6 for x. Right. up here, and plug it in for y. Same thing with the top one. All right, moving on to the last one. Last example for today. All right, so again, probably don't want to do substitution. One, because this is the elimination notes, and second, because none of the x's or y's are by themselves, which means it would be a big pain in the butt to have to move all that stuff around. So let's check our variables. -3 and +5. They're opposites, but they're not the same number. All right, well, that's kind of annoying, but let's check the next one. -9 and +8, still not the same number, but opposite signs. So we need to find the least common multiple. In other words, what's the first number that I could multiply these two things to get to? Okay? Now I could do it with the 9 and 8 as well, but they're bigger numbers and they tend to be a little bit trickier to work with. So I'm going to pick the smaller ones and see if I can come up with something. Okay? Well, think to yourself, what's the first number that I can multiply 3 to get to that also is something 5 can get to? In other words, 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4, 12, 15, 18, 21, and so on. 5 is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Okay, so look at their multiples. Do they have something in common? Right there. So 15 is the number that I'm gearing for. Okay? So that means I'm going to have to do a little bit of work to both of them. That's what makes this one a little bit more work than the others. Okay? So off to the side, it's going to ask you the question. I want you to tell me, what do I need to multiply the top equation by? So put the word top, colon, and then your answer. What do I have to multiply the top equation by to get to -15? And what do I have to multiply the bottom equation by to get to +15? That's my goal. This one I need -15. Remember, I need opposite numbers. Okay? Type that in off to the side, and then I'm going to show you what the actual answer is. All right, it should be 5 for the top one, and +3 for the second one, which means double work. All right, so I'm going to write in green down here for the top one. 5 times -3x is -15x. -9 times 5 is -45y. And -27 times 5. Oh my goodness, lots of mental math. Okay. 135, I believe, is the right answer. I'm going to write the bottom equation in red. 3 times 5x is 15x. Look, there's my golden numbers right there. -15 and 15 will cancel. Plus 24y equals 30. All right, now let's get to work doing our elimination. Get rid of those. -45 plus 24 is -21y. And it equals -105. Divide by -21. So y is equal to +5, I believe. Check my key. Yes, it is. All right. Whew, that was a lot of work to get that first answer. All right, last step. I'm going to pick the second equation to plug in my y. You could do it for the first, doesn't really matter. I just use the second one because it's all positives. I like using positive numbers. 5x plus 40 equals 10. Oh my goodness, so much work to find the second one. Really, it's not that bad. This is -30. And divide by 5. X equals -6. Ta-da! All right. Oh, I almost forgot. Write them as a coordinate. And put a cloud around it to show it's your final answer. All right. Feel free to go back, rewind, ask for help, raise your hand. Any of those above options are fantastic. Or if you're feeling great about this lesson, move on and do the other 4 problems on the back side. So the whole thing's due for Monday.